Hello and welcome to this Evolutionaries Discuss forum, and today we're talking about astrology and cosmic influences. And welcome to everyone on the call. At the moment we've got Emma Johnson, Michael Day, Jackie Bruce Coultas, Caroline Kyriacou, David Charles Rowan and Christian Kyriacou. And Christian has very kindly agreed to do an opening alignment. So we're going to come to you first, Christian, and then we're going to come to David Rowan, who is an astrologer, who's going to open the call with his understanding about the importance of astrology.
Okay, as we know, sound is absolutely crucial and the beginning of all vibration and matter and manifestation into creation. So nothing better than a really good Tibetan bowl, and this is quite a special one. So if I can just invite you to listen as best as we can over the internet and just let the vibrations meet your energy fields and just filter through and absorb the sound.
Thank you. Well, the primary evolution was the Big Bang, and all physics disagrees about whether or not there is a unified field, or whether or not things are particles, or whether or not things are waves. But the one thing all branches of physics agree, and that is the arrow of time goes forwards. So everything has been evolving since matter was formed. So evolution isn't anything new, but there are stages and steps in evolution, and that's where astrology can come in handy, because you can monitor how things have been, but also how things may be. Just to illustrate this, there's a symbol in astrology called Pluto, which represents transformation. When something transforms, generally it means there's a new beginning, but a new beginning requires an old ending. So winter dies and spring is born, and spring passes into summer, and then summer falls away and we have the birth of autumn, and so forth. So Pluto, representing transformation on a global level, began to go into Sagittarius around 1992. Now, at the beginning of Pluto going into Sagittarius, a very small event occurred, but it was a big event in another way. And that was that the Anglican Church endorsed Lady Vickers. Sagittarius is a sign of religion and a sign of optimism and of fields afar. So Pluto passing through Sagittarius created a massive change in the way that we on this island, in England certainly, Britain, talked about religion. At the beginning of Pluto's passage into Sagittarius, only regular churchgoers talked about religion. So Pluto is now moving through Capricorn. What does this mean? Well, Capricorn is a sign of structure. The structure of our planet is rock, the bones. The structure of our body is our skeletal frame and our bones, skin and teeth. The structure of a society is economy and government. So in the same way that Pluto's passage through Sagittarius marked a point in which our relationship with religion and our relationship with philosophy changed fundamentally, our relationship with structure is also going through a fundamental change process, marked almost at the beginning with the financial global collapse. So Pluto going through Capricorn is shaking the kind of the house of cards.
So David, are you saying essentially that there's nothing that we can do to change the course of events if there's a sort of cosmic wheel that is turning?
No, not at all. The symbols in astrology are polysemous, which means they have multiple layers of meaning. A transformation can be a rebirth. A transformation can also be a death.
I'm Christian Kyriacou, known as a house whisperer, working with people, helping them understand their relationship of their inner home to their outer home where they live. And in my 21 years of working in this way, and my contact with astrology is the Japanese system of the 9-star key astrology, the key. And I have no deep knowledge of the Western or the Vedic astrologers. It fascinates me and I follow them. But what I've come to understand over the years working with people is astrology is a framework, whether it's global, Earth, galactic, whatever, but that we still have a vast amount of control and self-responsibility and influence over our lives and the lives of others through conscious work. And ultimately, and I've seen this working with people and calculating their astrologies, that if somebody is truly connected to consciousness, the astrology does not read. There is no pattern that can be read because people have overridden it. So in my understanding, it's, yes, understand the machine that we've chosen to come into this lifetime, the car we're going to drive, our astrological pattern and our date of birth and all that. But the idea is not to be restricted by it.
Yes. Hello, I'm Michael Day. I'm an astrologer, a life coach and psychic. And my job is to look at the cycles of life. And astrology is a great way of finding your place in the cosmos, to make sense of your life. You know, life is not chaos. There's cause and effect. And the planets are all around us in the solar system. And they're great metaphysical kind of anchors. They kind of hold the energy of life. And they are a system for understanding how we evolve over time, because we are the sum of different time cycles, from youth going on to maturity. There's always different cycles affecting us. For example, the cycle of Saturn, it's 28 years, but there's 4 quarters to it. So we change every 7 years. And we can create a very lovely structure looking at all the different planets and how they impact us. So, you know, life is going forwards, and there is a rhyme and a reason. And we can look at different stages of time, and things do come back. Things do come back in our lives to look at again. So we can see that in terms of Jupiter, every 12 years, we'll look at our financial systems. So things come round to give us a new focus, but you know, nothing is totally new. Everything here is evolving. There's a past, a present, and a future, and there's the whole multidimensional aspect that is beyond all that. But astrology is a great language. It's a great way of understanding the deeper aspects of the human psyche, and it gives us a real sense of structure and purpose to our lives.
Hello, Rachel. I'm Jackie, and I do a lot of healing on horses and on people. And I just find it very fascinating what is going on around us at the minute, and it all seems to be focusing on the men. Now, when I say this, I mean, as women, we have been abused through all the centuries, and we've always kept our mouths shut. We've never said anything. But it's interesting now that all men are coming forward now, saying how they've been abused. We've got Donald Trump, who has been an abuser. And I'm interested to find out, isn't it now a reversal of roles now? They are now starting to they're now starting to realise what we've had to go through down the centuries. Now that it's coming back, and the onus has been put back on them.
We talked about this in the last call about the amount of trauma on the planet and what actually happens. This is my take on it, is that trauma plays itself out through the drama triangles of persecutor, victim, rescuer. And so whether that is Donald Trump as the abuser, making comments about women, and then other people coming to the rescue and getting involved in that drama triangle, ultimately, what, as Michael said, all of this stuff is coming up to be shown and to have light shone on it, so that we can ultimately heal it and transcend it, as opposed to getting involved in the drama triangle of blame, name, shame, judge, which basically has us pointing the finger and saying, he's the bad guy, you're the victim, I'm coming to your rescue. And that was actually, we talked a lot about that at in the last discussion forum. But as we touched on earlier, the thing about astrology is it ultimately is about duality. And as Christian said, it's about transcending duality, because in each opposite pair of signs, so for example, you have Aries and Libra, which is essentially about Aries is all about I am and about kind of war, and Libra is about us, and it's about peace ultimately. So transcending duality is the ultimate aim of astrology. If we can understand the dynamics and we can come to that center point of alignment and transcend.
It was interesting. I had an insight this morning. Apparently Donald Trump is having a problem with organising A-listers to come to his inauguration. And I asked why. And apparently the response I got was, America has an enormous emotional blockage and it needs healing. And when I say America, I mean as a country, not as individuals, not even necessarily as a human concept. It might be America as a nation on another conscious emotional level.
But I think there's something very important for us all to understand, us evolutionaries to understand, is that even if we take the position of America needs healing and we need to go and do it, we become the rescuer. So we're involved in that same drama triangle. And it's a really interesting dynamic, is that a lot of people are coming into this world and positioning themselves as the rescuer and are kind of pointing the finger, you've got a problem, you need healing, and I'm going to come and do it, sort of thing. And it's a kind of classic Messiah complex. I was kind of forced to watch the film, a Leonardo DiCaprio film, Beyond the Flood or something like that. I can't remember the exact title even, but it's like him positioning himself as this Messiah who's exposing all of the problems in the world and all of the anger about all of the people who are kind of causing all the pollution, and how, you know, and it really was in that drama triangle of judgment. And so it's a really interesting one, because that when we're stuck in that drama, in that triangle, we are actually metaphysically perpetuating the problem.
Yeah, Batman comes to mind as well, the rescuer, finding the problems and then solving them. It for me, it's very much, and I see this working with people in consultations, looking at what goes on in people's lives, and of course each one is very relevant to each person, and you know, some horrendous stuff that I get involved in and work with. And of course, as you're talking about that rescuer thing, that's exactly what I'm doing. People are coming to me because they need rescuing in some form, or something sorting out, you know, the 9 areas of life that we all share, you know, the feng shui 9 areas. But I seem to have slotted into a space where people are coming because they think I'm going to rescue them. And my absolute immediate response, whether it's on a phone call or an email, is to speak to people and say, I'm not going to do that. So let's get that out of the picture. I am going to facilitate you in your own rescuing. So you're going to self-rescue, understand what the story is. So my role is to see what the story is, the picture, but not to tell them, because to tell someone what their problem is to rescue them.
Yes.
And so I see my role as illuminating what their story is, so that they can go back to that seed point and empower themselves for their own transformation. Now, what I do is at that seed point of where something went wrong or a decision was made that people then consider had a negative influence on life, is I will see it as a kind of etheric matrix of programming, because all belief is programming. And I will begin to dissolve it, but not totally. Otherwise, I've then done the rescuing, I've done the fixing. And I'm doing that and helping the person do the other 50%. And the power of that is absolutely extraordinary. If I do a session with people remotely or on Zoom, it's very rarely more than 3 sessions, and people are done with it. They've got to where they need to. I say I'm not going to do a year of psychotherapy with you, which is kind of what I'm doing, psychotherapy of space. And within that, because you're dissolving their belief structures, it gives them enough a clarity as to why they've chosen the path, influenced by their astrology, of course, but then I believe we choose our moment of birth, which gives us our astrology. I'd love to hear what Michael and others have to say on that. But
so to me, Christian, just because obviously I've experienced your work, it's kind of bringing people back into that alignment where they may be pulled out of alignment through trauma or whatever's going on, and kind of bringing that back into harmony, because essentially your work really is about bringing people back into that resonance of the golden mean.
Yeah,
I know from having worked with you. So that's a really, because it's essentially bringing people into that center point of the chart, which is where they were born, about that point of source energy.
Absolutely.
And transcend their astrology.
And importantly, to show people that they are not victims of their astrology, not victims of their circumstance or the house. They're not victims of the house they've ended up living in. They have chosen it at some level because of their belief pattern, the law of attraction. Absolutely so clear after having done so many consultations and years of this. Every situation we have attracted and created.
Yes.
So how that mixes in with the astrological, do we have a choice, don't we? Are we influenced by all these cosmic astro dynamics? It's a fascinating one, but at the end of the day, we have more choice than people realize in changing not only our personal family situations, but a much bigger world consciousness through groups like this, you know.
Yeah. So essentially, astrology is just another way that Source speaks to us to help us to understand ourselves, so that we can come back to the center and transcend duality.
Well, my job is to advise patients, like, because this issue, some people need to be in the victim position. Okay, so the counselor or coach or astrologer is in that position of rescuer, but there has to be a sense of time, because some people need to be given empathy or sympathy as they're in that victim position. Now, clearly there's a higher philosophy called transcendence or taking responsibility or the law of attraction. And this is like the real power of metaphysics, how we create our reality. But we have to be careful, because people are very fragile, okay? And they need to be maybe in that victim position to go through a big process of transmutation or forgiving their abusers, but it takes time. And it can be very easy to try and give people this whole new philosophy, and they will tend to react against it because they need to be in that victim position just a bit longer. And like the job of people who are here to empower others is to be patient and compassionate, because so many people in the world are still stuck in this victim position. They're caught up with a feeling of lack, or they're obsessed with like conspiracy theories and like things are happening to them, and they get caught up with the idea of, you know, reptiles and pizza houses. So we can be very patient with that, but clearly the goal is to move towards this transcendental view that we're not limited by our chart, we're not limited in terms of what's possible. We can look at the cycles, and we can look at the symbolism. We can look at people like, you know, Donald Trump as being a superb mirror. Now, in the end, we're all here to be leaders, and we're all here to deal with our shadow and to become really great people. But I would say, you know, have patience, because you can tell people all these great esoteric principles and they can get very upset because people have been wounded, people feel injured, people feel abused. It takes time to come out of that position. And we're all dealing with, you know, more secret layers of wounding ourselves. So the journey is always ongoing.
Now, I'm going to just slightly change the tack of the conversation into kind of galactic influences and other dimensions, because I think it's a fascinating area. And I'd love to come to you, Christian, because I know that you invoke a lot of other higher dimensions. And I think that's a fascinating thing for us to explore.
Yeah, as you say, I get involved a lot in multiple dimensions, not just dimensions of space, but dimensions of time when I'm working with people. Because often people's situations, the cause of something that isn't working in their lives is often not in this lifetime. Yeah, in many occasions it's you know, childhood and often in the womb. A lot at the moment, I'm working with people, particularly women, where they were not wanted during pregnancy. And so they spend the rest of their lives looking behind their back, have no self-worth because they were not wanted by their parents. And that resonance, that intention from the parents goes deep into the child in that 9 months in the womb. But then going beyond that, what I experience is other realities, other time dimensions that are kind of existing at the same time in our timeline. So timeline is not linear, it's actually multidimensional. And we can access that only in the present moment. And the biggest and most powerful tool we have is connecting and being in the present moment. Because from that moment, from that point, we can connect to source, and from there access the total Akashic records that we need to, not just for our own, you know, entertainment, but we are here to serve a need. And in the present moment, we can access that knowledge for what the client, you know, we're working with, or the situation requires.
Explain to us what the Akashic records are, Christian, for people who don't know.
It's a Sanskrit word, Akasha, for space. And space is, if we look at the circle of 9 points in the Vedic system, we have the 4 inner stages of mind, and then we have Akasha at number 5. And then we have air, fire, water, and earth at number 9. Earth at number 9, the number of perfection used by many esoteric metaphysical societies, the Templars, and so on. That's why the number 9 is so powerful. But that midway is, that number 5 is Akasha, space. And it's actually the 5th element. We talk about the 4 elements, but actually in all esoteric systems, they kind of imply it, but don't talk about it. But that is Akasha, space. And it's sound. This is where sound is, which is why sound is such a powerful tool. And so everything that is that happens in the universe, even our thinking processes, gets recorded in Akashic space. So not only in physical space of building materials, and all building materials have a degree of water. Water, as we know, holds memory because it's a hexagonal structure. Computer chips work in the same way, they're crystalline. And so memory is held in a house in that way through the fabric of the walls, the ceiling, and so on. But within space itself, there is an invisible matrix that is constantly recording every event that happens. And so if we reverse that process and press replay, we're going to hear the information that has been recorded. So it's like a video recorder, a digital video recorder, and we can access it through the present moment if there is a need. And in that sense, that Akashic records that are created through thousands or millions of years are all around us and are accessible. And this is why there's no just one timeline of just going into someone's past. There are lots of realities and timelines and lifetimes that everyone has lived, and they're all happening at the same time. And we can actually tune into the radio dial or the TV program and actually watch it or listen to it.
Okay.
So that's kind of that's my world and my reality. That how I access the knowledge and information to help people.
Hi, I'm Caroline, Akamamake, juice maker, trying to keep people healthy. I'm very honoured that I'm in the company of such incredible learnings. Your experience is great, actually, because I'm learning all the time. So although I don't know very much, I know that it's very, very powerful, that the astrology and the planets, but I've got a long way to go to learn. But with your help, guys, I'm getting there very slowly. So thank you very, very much. And I'll enjoy the rest of your input.
So thank you all very much for joining us for this call. And I really appreciate your time and all of your contributions. So thank you very much. Goodbye.